It was announced the United States relists the Houthis as terrorists. So they were once considered terrorists under the Trump administration. Then they made peace with the Saudis. So Biden lifted that. And now they are putting it back. And they say it's because if they list them as a terrorist organization, then they can sever the relationship that the Houthis may have with whatever nations or groups. And that will prevent them from getting whatever equipment that they're using to attack ships in the Red Sea. This is a statement here, this tweet. I forget this U.S. official's name. I think it's John Kirby. He's a piece of garbage. I say that because he's just been giving the green light to commit genocide in Gaza. Anyway, he announced the U.S. has set a condition for the Houthis to remove them from the list of terrorist organizations. As reported by Reuters, according to a senior U.S. official, Washington classifies the Ansar Allah movement as a terrorist group. If the Yemenis stop their attacks in the Red Sea, Washington will consider revoking this classification. Well, in response, Ansar Allah, or the Houthis, responded, and they had a pretty baller statement, I'm not gonna lie. They said, the American classification will not deter us from our firm position in support of the Palestinians. There is no effectiveness on the ground for Washington's decision regarding our classification. The American classification will not deter us from our support for Palestine. We will not back down from our position in support of the Palestinian people. The recent American decision will only increase our adherence to our position in support of the Palestinians. What a statement. The people of Yemen are amazing, right? I mean, they're not afraid of anyone or anything, and they're like, this is the right thing to do. We do not care what the consequences are. Call us terrorists, bomb us, starve us, kill us. We don't care. We will not betray the Palestinian people. It almost makes you want to cry. It's so incredible. May God protect and reward these people. I'm not supporting them because now they're classified as terrorists, but really, that is a bold and powerful statement. So incredible. And then you have this statement by the Secretary General of the Hezbollah Brigades, Abu Hussein al-Hamidawi, to Ansar Allah. We renew our covenant and promise that we are of you and with you for as long as God wills. We say it so that the world can hear it. An attack on you from any country or entity, large or small, we will deal with it as a direct attack on us, and we will not be deterred by challenges, whatever their type or size, and from any party. I mean, the solidarity is like, wow, these are allies. You know, you have friends who betray you. These people will not let you down. These people will not betray you. Now, I know these are just words, but we've actually seen them take out these actions, and it's all for the people of Palestine. Doesn't that inspire you? Isn't that beautiful? I mean, these people are up against aircraft carriers and drones and F-16s and F-35s, and they're not afraid. They're not afraid. That's incredible. And this is an awesome image I just wanted to show you. Look at this baller, the OG Yemeni standing in the Red Sea with his sword. Like, nope, you're not gonna get past. That's incredible. I love to see it. So, and despite the announcement that they're gonna become classified as a terrorist group, the Houthis continued their attack, and it was announced today by the UK MTO. There was a warning. They received a report of an incident 60 nautical miles southeast of Aden in Yemen. Master reports vessel has been hit on the port side by an uncrewed aerial system. It reported there was a fire on board which has now been extinguished. Vessel and crew are safe and are proceeding to the next port of call. Vessels are advised to transit with caution and report any suspicious activity. The Houthis aren't backing down. They're not stopping. They don't care. Call us what you want. Do what you want to us. We're gonna continue trolling you until you people gain some sense. Remember, the Houthi position is what? Stop the genocide in Gaza. That's it. That's it. They're not asking for anything else. It's the most reasonable, rational, logical position you could take. Stop killing babies. Not that complicated, right? And they're willing to do the impossible, insurmountable, to try and achieve that. May God protect them. And I showed you guys this image the other day, but I thought I'd show it to you again because I think it just really, it's such a beautiful visualization of what the Yemenis are causing. It's so funny. It makes me laugh. But you can see from the port of Singapore, the blue line, traditionally, you know, it would only take them 8,500 nautical miles, a 26-day trip to get to Rotterdam, which is a very important port in Northern Europe in the Netherlands. But the Yemenis are making them go all the way south, and it, you know, increases the trip by like 25%. that. Now instead of 8,500 nautical miles, it's 11,800 nautical miles, and it increases it by 10 days, which is more fuel. It's just troll. The Yemenis are like, we're gonna troll you. And they're having success. Look at this. Militant attacks affect shipping movement. Freight container volumes through the Red Sea region have fallen by 65%. You know, on Twitter, I will see these conservative trolls who are like anti-Palestine, and they just troll. The Houthis are stupid. They're not doing anything. They're not achieving anything. Here you go. Yes, they are. That is why they're bombing them. That is why they're calling them terrorists. And that's why on the chart, you're seeing 65% drop off of expected shipping because of them. And insurance rates are rising, as we discussed yesterday. So yes, they are having an impact. It's so funny how they try to convince you that the move you're making, which is the best strategic move, they try to convince you that it's actually garbage. It's meaningless. The Houthis aren't achieving anything. Yeah, they are, buddy. Yeah, they are. And look at this. This was an announcement by the CEO of Saudi oil giant Aramco. He was in Davos. There's this big World Economic Forum in Davos, Switzerland, and all the rich big ballers go there, and the government officials, and they talk, you know, all the things that us plebs are not allowed to talk about because we're too poor, and we have apparently no decision. We're not allowed to participate in any discussions regarding our future. We have to just accept what they discuss in Davos. But anyway, prolonged attacks by the Houthis on ships would lead to a shortage of tankers. So this is going to affect oil prices. This is going to affect the movement of oil. Now they say not in the short term, but in the long term, it could be a problem. And according to the Houthis, they're not gonna stop anytime soon, and neither are the Israelis. The Israelis saying they're gonna fight for another year in Gaza. So it sounds like the Houthis are gonna troll the Red Sea for another year. And that's why it seems like the US and the UK and the West are really trying to get the Red Sea under control. I mean, they have all the power and resources to do it. So I don't know how creative the Houthis can get, but they are a brave people and they're gonna keep trying. I thought this was funny. More ships flagged no link with Israel to avoid Houthi attacks. Because remember, the Houthis said we're gonna attack ships going to Israel or owned by Israel or affiliated with Israel, right? And now they're expanding that. They're gonna attack Western ships because they're like calling them terrorists and they're gonna bomb them. So Houthis like, okay, fine, we'll attack you too. But you have Chinese ships and you have all these other ships from different countries. They're like, we have nothing to do with the Israelis. And you can see what they do is they put out like a message, right? They're constantly in communication, reporting their location and things of that nature. So you can see here are some examples. Pacific Merit says no link Israel. SM Osprey says no relation to Israel. Ping Hai says CNCW. I guess they're saying we're Chinese. No link Israel. Athena no Kant Israel. India no con with Israel. Oh, okay. Well then they gotta get hit. No, I don't think that's what they're saying. But then Leda says nothing with Israel. So it's so funny. None of these countries want to be affiliated with Israel in any way because they don't want to get struck. You know, I want to add, actually, there was something interesting that I saw that I think is quite important. I don't want to open up a discussion about global economics right now, but I'll try, you know, to summarize as quickly as I can. But essentially in 2008, look how far I have to take you back. 2008. In 2008, when the global economic crisis took place, when you had this massive recession, many would argue is a depression, okay? It was just an epic crash. The way the United States and the Western world got out of this crash was they decided to just print a ton of money. They printed a ton of money. They gave it to all the banks, very low interest to zero interest. And the banks didn't even have to pay a lot of it back because of a process called quantitative easing. So about $4 trillion that the banks were supposed to give back to the Federal Reserve, they were just forgiven. They didn't even have to give it back. So you had this influx of dollars, and this boosted the economy. All of a sudden, there was all this economic productivity. That was a short-term solution. In the long term, what that did, as you know, the more you add to the supply, the less valuable it becomes. So they built this economic activity and progress on quicksand. It's a shaky, weak foundation. So they've printed this money and had increased inflation. And that's why if you look back 20, 30 years, the dollar used to buy you this, and 20 or 30 years later, and the dollar is like way cheaper, way weaker, can barely buy you anything compared to a dollar 20 or 30 years ago. And that's because of the inflation. Now, when COVID happened, you had an extreme economic crash. And how did they solve that one? They decided to print even more money. Well, when they did this, they injected so much cash into the economy that was unnecessary, really, because a lot of these big corporations took that and pocketed it. When they had money saved up, a lot of these companies, they could have just dug into their savings, but they all took advantage of the free money. And as a result, the inflation got out of control. So what has the US and the West been having to do for the last few years? They've had to start raising interest rates. So now people are borrowing less money because the interest rates are higher. Do you want to buy a home and pay 10% interest, or would you rather wait for when the interest loans are cheap? So this has slowed economic activity down, and they've tried to do it in a gradual way, and they've been able to get inflation somewhat under control, but it's like putting a ceiling over a balloon that won't stop growing. The moment they stop raising the interest rates and they reduce the interest rates, inflation will take off again. Okay, it's entering a cycle of like just endless inflation, which is very bad. This is how societies are destroyed. Like this happened in Rome, this happened in so many different empires. They would just inflate and cheapen the value of their currency until the point where it had no value, and people abandoned that currency and they stopped having faith in it. And that leads to a collapse, and it's very, very dangerous. Well, the US is in this position, the Western world is in this position. You could argue the entire world is in this position, really, because everyone engaged in this behavior. But the US especially, and the US has the most to lose because they're top dog. What they're arguing, what the Houthis will do, the Houthis, this little group in Yemen, what do they have to do with the powerful forces at the top, right? But these little Houthis in Yemen are at the perfect time applying pressure on the supply chain and will force these people, because of the hit on economic activity and the rising of consumer goods, is going to affect their ability to remove the high interest rates, which means they're delaying the economic recovery, and they could actually be contributing to the continued inflation of the dollar. So the Houthis are striking at the perfect time. I'm not saying they're going to cause the global economic crash. I'm just saying they might. So it's really, really funny. It's really, really interesting.